Hi, welcome to Prem Sports Rants with yours truly. I know I was planning to do a UFC 249 preview show, however, that's going to be delayed in order to be a review show with the special guest I have scheduled for that particular episode. So let's go right into it. I'm going to be talking about two of my favourite sports, football and wrestling. Don't worry, I'm not intending to be a news show where I have to give you latest up-to-date information. That's probably why the Tasmania Devil went so bad and had a bit of a crazy situation. Anyway, let's go straight into it. Football. So one of the things that's happened on Friday today, is that the IFAB, so International Football Association Board, has discussed that there's going to be 5 substitutions allowed for each game, which is really interesting because it shows that the football scheduling, it may get further delayed, where we do not want to impact next season, and we want to ensure that this current season is finished as quickly as possible, where it may mean there will be a game every 3 days. So it helps to not to cause too many injuries. Like at the infamous Christmas period, Boxing Day, Christmas, New Year's Day, a lot of players do tend to get injured. We saw that with Harry Kane, along with other players like Marcus Rashford. So I think it's a good decision in order to help facilitate the hectic game schedule that we are going to go through. And it will be interesting for us that we need some entertainment during this tough period, because unfortunately we may be past the peak, but Europe has seen that the UK is number one in all of Europe, and the numbers are still really high. So we need this. And having said that, as long as the regulations are done in which the players' health is taken as the number one priority over economic gains, then we're all there for it. Unfortunately, the Aston Villa manager has actually recently stated that there are at least 2 players that will not be able to play at all because one of the players' parents is in remission from cancer, whilst another player has asthma. So he's part of the vulnerable group. So it is a very difficult situation, and it may lead to controversy. If Aston Villa gets relegated, that may be the reason. However, playing devil's advocate, they are already in the relegation bottom 3, and this is an opportunity for them to try to climb out. And they were starting to hit some form, so it's one of those situations. Even while another manager, part of a different situation, although they both got promoted with Villa, he understands that if some players are uncomfortable in order to participate, if they're too uncomfortable to participate, then and then he will respect their rights, and that's what we want to hear. Because if a player is uncomfortable, no one should be forced to do anything, because these are difficult. There's a difficult period. We even saw Subotic of Union Berlin, so the ex-Dortmund defender. He's at Union Berlin right now, and he gave a good balanced argument saying that it's too soon to start the Bundesliga. However, he understands that it may be the case in a few months' time, and he understands the permutations of the Bundesliga, where you have to get the season resolved as soon as possible at the same time. And okay, that's what I'm going to speak about in that predicament. I'm excited for the Bundesliga coming back. I was watching the Premiership a lot more, if I'm being honest, and Conte's Inter against Juve and Lazio, but there was also a very interesting title race. Even Mönchengladbach was in the title race beforehand as well, but it looks like it's Dortmund, Leipzig and Bayern Munich, and I said in the previous episode, it's going to be really good to watch. So as I said, I don't want to be talking about as the latest football news, but I really want to talk about something that Patrice Evra spoke about a few days ago. So when we talk about Sir Alex Ferguson, we want to talk about what was the impact that he had once he left Man United. We've seen an extraordinary reversal of fortunes of Man United and Liverpool. We saw, and now one team has become a sleeping giant, and the other side is performing very well. Although that did take Liverpool a few years in order to reach that state, although Brendan Rodgers was good during that period, but nevertheless, it's interesting to see what was the impact of Sir Alex Ferguson. A lot of people, like for example, at Aberdeen, when Ferguson did manage at Aberdeen and actually took Aberdeen to beat Real Madrid in a European Cup final. Blows your mind. So it makes you wonder, like, what there's so many things that Alex McLeish said that he was the captain of Aberdeen, the manager of Birmingham City and Scotland, ex-manager of Birmingham and ex-manager of Scotland. He said that when he was the captain of Aberdeen, once Ferguson had left Aberdeen, the players naturally dropped their intensity by 10 to 15%. And that's obviously been the case at Man United because we've seen so many players with so much potential drop their form, I should say. So we saw Phil Jones, Chris Smalling, Tom Cleverley, so many players that were performing quite well, and they actually helped Man United convincingly win the league in Ferguson's final season. We all know that Van Persie was perhaps the biggest casualty because he only came for that following season, for that only season of Ferguson's. But this is what I want to talk about Evra's interview. Evra said that Ferguson had planned to sign 2 major signings to help Man United assault the Champions League to have one last epic opportunity, because this may have been influenced by the fact that Man United were harshly dumped out of the Champions League against Real Madrid, so much so that even Jose Mourinho refused to celebrate the victory because he actually said that the better team lost. And we saw a 40-year-old Ryan Giggs outplaying Marcelo and Di Maria. So what I want to talk about is that the mind-blowing major news was that Ferguson actually had planned to sign Bale and Cristiano Ronaldo. And of course that could be, I want to sign Messi, I want to sign all these players. That is actually interesting because Evra has stated that Ronaldo was actually keen on returning to Man United, knowing that there's only a few years left for Ferguson, because we didn't know Ferguson was going to quit in order to help look after his wife. So it's mind-blowing how the difference Man United could have been. If they had kept Ferguson, they could have actually managed to get Bale and Ronaldo. Or you can easily argue that Bale would have been more interested and more keen to go to Real Madrid in order to replace Ronaldo if he was to return to Man United. Nevertheless, imagine Ferguson with Ronaldo, Van Persie, Rooney, and a Rooney that would have been perhaps a bit motivated. But again, let me throw another cliffhanger over there. Rooney and Ferguson did fall out. Maybe to facilitate the signing of Ronaldo, Rooney would have to go. But then, are you going to complain signing Ronaldo to replace Rooney? Because unfortunately, as I said, I loved how Rooney was as a young player, but unfortunately, his form and his performances did tailor off in the sense that he started his career better than Messi and Ronaldo, but it tailored off simply because he was bad, his own bad management. So he would smoke, he would drink, and that's not what he should be doing. He's abusing his body. As someone who's studying dental school, I can tell you that it is very, very important what you intake. And it's not just about your teeth, it's about all parts of your health. Although your dental hygiene can affect your medical, all your health itself. If you have your tooth extracted, for example, Streptococcus mutans, that is a bacteria that's usually around the teeth and go to a heart and cause endocarditis. Sorry, I know. I thought I'd throw some dental information towards you guys. That's what I like to say to patients. So anyway, it's interesting how Man United could have been, and that's all I'm going to mention in regard to that, because I don't want to drag on with this podcast for too long, because I want it to be as short and casual as possible. And I think the final conversation I was going to have is that Real Madrid have ended their interest in Paul Pogba, apparently, whilst there's always transfer rumours going on where people believe that Bruno Fernandes and Paul Pogba are going to form a very good, strong partnership, and which could harm any other side in order to challenge for the Premiership. Okay, so again, I'm just talking about a big player at Man United who maybe under Ferguson could have flourished a lot more. And it's just mind-boggling to think about stuff like that. And no, I'm not a Man United fan. I'm not a Newcastle fan. I'm a Middlesbrough fan. But Newcastle and Man United are the two big clubs that are just causing so much controversy, and they just yearn attention. You can even say the same thing about Arsenal. Even Thierry Henry recently has stated that he is not in the position to try to convince Aubameyang to stay, because he actually even eventually left as well. And Arsenal were arguably in a stronger state when Henry was there. And the same thing with Chelsea. There are perhaps more players from Ajax Amsterdam, Onana, the goalkeeper, and Van der Beek. They're both linked to leave, and Ajax have promised that these players, along with their right back, the Argentinian right back, his name's too hard for me to pronounce right now, do not want to embarrass myself too much. They've stated that they will not be sold at a discounted price. So, fascinating periods. And as I mentioned, Newcastle already, go for Van der Beek. You need a strong midfield. You can get some freebies, get Van der Beek, get Coutinho, maybe Icardi, and get some freebies around. So if Icardi doesn't go to Juventus, and especially if Cavani, I said Icardi, sorry, similar names. And if Cavani doesn't leave PSG, go for Icardi. That's it. Okay, now, because I don't want to drag on for too long, let's talk about the world of wrestling. Money in the Bank is coming up this Sunday, whilst also Smackdown's coming on tonight. Can't wait to watch that on Zoom with some of the wrestling lads. Feel free to join us if you want. Just comment below and then just join us. So I'm going to talk about a few of the things that has happened recently. So Florida, this is actually breaking news. The state head of Florida, the mayor, has actually said that he's aiming to reduce lockdown measures to the sense that he's aiming to have people to go to live events in a small amount of numbers, which is interesting because that means Raw and SmackDown, NXT, all of these wrestling shows can then have some fans in the audiences, and it will help to attract certain people, because certain fans are not appeal to a lack of fans at the arena. I think it's actually helped SmackDown and NXT, and it's beginning to help Raw, but it could be interesting to see the impact of a limited crowd. A lot of people talk about the indie scene being very hype and electric because they have certain fans, a small amount of passionate hardcore fans, and it could help tailor wrestling storylines in order to get and generate a more of a crowd reaction, a passionate crowd reaction, and which wrestling badly needs, like during the Attitude Era and ECW, WCW, and WWF at that time. It could help a lot. Even you can say TNA, brilliant. And a few more wrestling related conversation. So I can't wait for another Braun Strowman and Bray Wyatt interaction. It needs to happen. I don't think it has had a definitive hype ending to lead towards Money in the Bank. That's going to be interesting. They're going to address the whole 4-way tag team championship match on Friday, because that was breaking news, as I mentioned on our previous episode. So it's going to be interesting to watch SmackDown. And I guess we've got to talk about Jon Moxley, or for those that do not watch AEW, Dean Ambrose. He actually stated that he was heartbroken when he read on the day of the wrestlers being released. He was heartbroken because so many of those wrestlers were his friends or have been colleagues. So I'm not sure if that's propaganda to try to promote AEW or just to say in general, because he does seem someone, he speaks in general, because he is he's a big fan of CM Punk. So it seems genuine. I love Dean Ambrose. He was actually my initial favorite Shield member. And it is a really sad situation, and you can argue that it's genuine, and it does talk about not just about wrestling, but the state of wrestling as we are at right now. That it's really difficult, and people have to. It's a difficult time for the businesses, and maybe having more fans attending these shows will help wrestling companies grow again. I hope Cole Anderson and Luke Gallows return, but if you read their Instagrams, in which I do repost on the Instagram page I've got, feel free to check. I try to post a lot of these people's views and opinions, and they seem dead set going to NJPW. Although it could be a lose, it could be a trick with them eventually appearing at AEW. But here's my argument. Here's my 2 cents. Oh, okay. 2 pence, not cents. 2 pence. Here's my 2 pence. So if WWE have to save $4 million a month by releasing these guys, how does AEW and NJPW, ROH, Ring of Honor, TNA, all these companies expect to actually afford these guys? It's going to be difficult because the AEW's weekly taping is going to finish soon, and we don't know when this implementation of the limited lockdown is going to happen in the state of Florida. So AEW have also been losing money, and this Tony Khan and these guys want to hemorrhage their business, because that's what TNA did, and Panda Sports had to actually eventually take away their investment because TNA was providing great shows, however, was not making a profit. So that's what AEW may have to risk. And then at the same time, to the AEW purists, so I know it's a new show, a new company, but okay, to the wrestling purists, are you going to be happy that time after time after time, beside perhaps initial matches, we're going to have ex-WWE wrestlers fighting an ex-WWE wrestler for the championship? We did have a few guys, like we had Omega going for the #1 contendership, and then his name's out of my head, Omega's partner, who actually fought Chris Jericho for the opportunity for the championship. These guys are not having the opportunity to fight at AEW, and is it the same model as TNA? I'm not here to go against AEW, but I'm just throwing a wrench at the situation because everybody loves to hate WWE, but nobody loves to hate AEW because I've painfully said that Monday Night Raw was difficult to watch until last Monday, and even then I would want Titus O'Neil, Cesaro to have a bit of more of an opportunity to showcase their talent. So okay, that's it for today. I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. As you can see, I haven't exactly finished this book yet. It's a wonderful book. And you've got a Pokemon here, got a Goomba here. I'm a big computer game enthusiast. I like sci-fi. I like quite a lot of things, in fact. Feel free to talk about and comment, and I'd love to respond to you. So guys, please like, comment, and subscribe. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I'm Mr. Prem, and this has been my sport rant. Take care.